There's a truth about your inner world that no one dares whisper. Not your mentors, not your closest allies. And if you ignore it now, it will chain you forever. It's not about the monsters lurking in the shadows outside. It's about the shadows you yourself cast, the ones you unknowingly nurture within. It's the uncomfortable realization that the very weaknesses you despise in others, the failures you scorn, the moral compromises you judge, they all have a fertile breeding ground right inside you. This is the brutal honesty that defines true self-mastery, confronting the enemy not just at the gates, but deep within the castle walls of your own psyche. We speak of goodness as an inherent trait, a default setting for humanity, a soft blanket of inherent virtue. But what if goodness is less a state of being, and more a constant, relentless battle, a vigilant guard against the corrosive forces that threaten to unravel even the most noble among us? What if the line between the virtuous and the vile is not a chasm, but a hairline fracture within every soul, ready to split wide open under the right, or rather, the wrong pressure? This isn't just about resisting temptation. It's about understanding that the capacity for self-deception, for cruelty, for cowardice, is not an external contagion, but an internal seed waiting for the right conditions to sprout. This isn't some saccharine self-help guru telling you to manifest positivity or chant affirmations into a mirror. This is a stark, uncomfortable confrontation with the reality of your own potential for darkness, for failure, for moral decay. Ignore it at your peril, for the strength you don't build now, the inner citadel you neglect, will be the very weakness that your future self despises. This journey isn't just about understanding others' frailties. It's about dissecting the chilling truth of what you are capable of, and how you can forge an unbreakable will and an unyielding character in the face of it. Are you brave enough to look? Most of you navigate life under a grand, deceptive illusion, the illusion of control. You believe you're in the driver's seat of your destiny, capable of dictating outcomes, influencing others' opinions, and insulating yourself from the world's inherent chaos. This belief is a comforting fiction, a flimsy shield woven from wishful thinking, and a fear of the unknown. But this shield is fragile, and when it inevitably shatters, whether through personal loss, professional upheaval, or societal turmoil, you're left utterly exposed, bewildered, and often morally adrift. You suffer not merely from external misfortunes, but from the crushing weight of expecting things to be other than they are, convinced you held the reins where none existed. Consider the tech entrepreneur who pours years of life into a startup, meticulously planning every pivot, every market strategy, only to see it vaporize in an unexpected economic downturn or a competitor's surprise innovation. Their identity, their very self-worth, was tethered to an external outcome, market success, which was never truly within their grasp, or the devoted partner who bases their entire happiness on the unwavering fidelity of another, only to find themselves betrayed. The suffering isn't just the loss of wealth or the pain of infidelity. It's the profound shock, the disorienting collapse of a self-constructed reality where they believe they had dominion over external events and other people's wills. This psychological whiplash is far more damaging than the initial blow. This illusion of control isn't merely a source of pain. It feeds your profound vulnerability to moral compromise. When your perceived grip on external circumstances falters, when the comfort and security you thought you commanded begin to slip, you may desperately seek to regain that illusion by bending principles, cutting corners, or sacrificing integrity. The raw, primal fear of losing what you think you control, your reputation, your material comfort, your social standing, or even just your perceived competence, becomes a powerful, unseen current, pulling you towards unethical choice. This is where the seed of moral erosion is planted, watered by anxiety, by desperation, and by the relentless need to maintain a semblance of order in a chaotic world. You convince yourself it's necessary, a small price for regaining control. You may scoff right now, perhaps with a touch of defensiveness, believing you're above such weakness. You might tell yourself that your morals are ironclad, your character impenetrable. But history, psychology, and philosophy scream a different, more chilling truth. The insidious mechanisms that twist ordinary, well-meaning individuals into instruments of harm aren't just external pressures. They exploit an inherent darkness, a primal susceptibility within us all. This isn't a comfortable conversation, nor is it a polite academic debate. True self-mastery demands that we bravely, unflinchingly stare into the abyss of our own potential for cruelty, for cowardice, for self-deception. What lurks there? What would you do to preserve your comfort, your status, your very illusion of control? Seneca, the Roman Stoic, understood this intimate universal struggle. He wrote, "Every man carries within him the seeds of virtue and of vice, and it depends on himself which he will cultivate or neglect." This isn't about some rare anomaly, some genetic predisposition to evil. It's about the universal human condition. We are not born purely good or purely evil, but with the profound, terrifying capacity for both. The now infamous Stanford prison experiment and Milgram's obedience studies didn't create monsters in a lab. They merely unveiled the latent capacity for inhumanity, for abdication of personal responsibility, that external circumstances and perceived authority can unleash in anyone. They showed how thin the veneer of civility can become when inner principles are not actively fortified. Think of the Roman legions, an embodiment of discipline, courage, and loyalty, the very bedrock of a vast empire. Yet, these same soldiers, under different commands or given license by context, committed unspeakable acts of brutality. Their discipline, when misdirected, became a terrifying efficiency for violence. Or consider the French Revolution's idealistic pursuit of liberty, equality, and fraternity, which spiraled into the grotesque mass executions of the Reign of Terror, fueled by fear, paranoia, and the dehumanization of enemies of the revolution. These were not inherently evil people. They were human beings caught in a maelstrom where the external pressures of conformity, the seduction of power, the fear of being perceived as disloyal, and the dehumanization of perceived threats eroded their inner moral compass, piece by agonizing piece. The system didn't make them evil. It exploited the unfortified moral gaps within them. Epictetus, himself born a slave and rising to become a revered philosopher, understood the profound danger of ceding our internal agency. He taught, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The brutal truth is that we often choose to react poorly, not out of inherent malice, but out of weakness, a fear of discomfort, a craving for ease, a desperate clinging to external approval. We rationalize our compromises, whispering to ourselves, "It's just this once," or "everyone else is doing it," or "I had no choice." These are the insidious whispers of moral disengagement, creating psychological distance between our actions and our deepest values. We become masters of self-deception, constructing elaborate narratives to justify our slide into mediocrity or worse. This insidious process doesn't happen overnight. There is no sudden, dramatic fall from grace for most. It's a slow, almost imperceptible erosion, like a river carving a canyon over millennia. Each small compromise, each silenced dissent, each act of turning a blind eye to injustice sands down the edges of your character. Soon, the line between right and wrong becomes blurred, then indistinct, until finally, it disappears altogether. You become a hollow echo of your former self, your once firm principles replaced by fleeting convenience, your integrity sacrificed for temporary comfort or imagined security. The initial cost seems small, but the cumulative debt is your very soul. You become a stranger to yourself, haunted by the ghost of the person you once swore you'd be. This is the abyss that threatens you, but it's also the forge. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, knew this internal battlefield intimately. He wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The power to resist corruption, to maintain your integrity, to choose virtue regardless of the cost, doesn't come from external circumstances, from fleeting praise, or from a convenient environment. It comes from the unwavering fortress you actively build within, brick by conscious decision, stone by stone of practiced discipline. It's about consciously choosing your response, your character, your moral compass, regardless of the chaos and pressure raging around you. It's the ultimate act of reclaiming sovereignty over yourself. This is where Stoicism offers not fluffy platitudes or empty affirmations, but hardened steel for your soul, tools forged in the fires of ancient wisdom and refined through millennia of human suffering. The first, most crucial tool is the dichotomy of control. Some things are within your power. Your opinions, impulses, desires, aversions, your character. Others are emphatically not. Your body, which will eventually fail. Your property, which can be lost. Your reputation, which others control. And certainly external events like market crashes, pandemics, or the actions of others. You must ruthlessly differentiate between the two. Your energy, your focus, your anger, your sorrow must be directed solely at what you control. Everything else is a force of nature, to be acknowledged, understood, and ultimately accepted, not fought with futile resistance. Trying to control the uncontrollable is like trying to command the tides. It will only exhaust and drown you. Next, wield Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This isn't morbid pessimism or wallowing in negativity. It's a strategic, psychological inoculation against shock and despair. Before embarking on any venture, before making a commitment, before stepping into any significant situation, pause and actively consider, what could go wrong? What are the worst possible outcomes? Mentally rehearse not just the catastrophe itself, but your response to it. Not to dwell in fear, but to mentally detach from the expectation of comfort, to steel yourself against potential blows, and to cultivate robust resilience. If you anticipate the punch, if you've considered its impact, it loses half its sting when it lands. It makes you a warrior, not a victim. How does this apply to your daily grind? Facing workplace bullying, a demanding boss, or the suffocating societal pressure to conform? Recognize that their opinions, their actions, their very existence are not within your control. What is within your power is your response, your unwavering integrity, your decision to speak up or to walk away, your refusal to compromise your values, your inner peace. This isn't about winning a superficial argument or a political battle. It's about preserving the sanctity of your character, which is the only true and lasting victory. Viktor Frankl, surviving the unimaginable horrors of Nazi concentration camps, demonstrated this ultimate internal freedom. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He chose meaning, he chose defiance of despair, and in doing so, he became unconquerable. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, embrace Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. This is not passive resignation, not a complacent acceptance of whatever comes your way. It is an active, even joyful, acceptance of everything that happens, recognizing that it is all part of the grand, indifferent, yet ultimately perfect tapestry of existence. To truly love your fate means not wishing anything to be different. not yearning for alternative realities, but to find strength, purpose, and even beauty in what is. This mindset transforms adversity from a soul-crushing obstacle into a searing crucible for growth, forging the iron of your will, refining your spirit. It's the ultimate act of self-mastery, making peace with the uncontrollable, integrating it into your narrative, and finding profound power in it. It allows you to say, "This happened, and because it happened, I am stronger." You've now glimpsed the chasm, the inner darkness that can be exploited, the grand illusion of control that cripples and blinds you. But you've also been given the tools, the ancient wisdom to build an unshakable inner citadel, a fortress of character that no external storm or internal whisper can dismantle. The battle for your soul, for your integrity, for your very sense of self, is fought not on distant battlefields, but in the quiet, often terrifying chambers of your own mind, every single day. The choice is stark, agonizingly personal, and profoundly yours. Will you succumb to the path of least resistance, allowing the treacherous currents of external pressure to drag you into moral decay, or will you stand firm, armed with Stoic wisdom, and become the undisputed master of your own internal universe? This isn't about achieving some mythical, unattainable state of goodness or becoming a saint. It's about the relentless, fierce, and conscious act of guarding your prohairesis, your faculty of choice, your rational will, against all attempts to corrupt it, both from without and from within. It's about accepting the brutal, unforgiving truths of life, preparing for the worst with open eyes, and then, with an unyielding spirit forged in the fires of discipline, choosing virtue anyway. This is where real freedom lies. This is where your strength truly begins. If this piercing truth resonated deep within your bones, if it stripped away some comfortable illusion and sparked a fire of resolve, then know this: you've only just begun to forge your inner armor. This confrontation with your shadows is merely the first, vital step. Brace yourself for what's next, as we dive deeper into mastering the void within, building an unshakable will, and truly understanding how to navigate a chaotic world without losing yourself. The journey to true self-mastery is long, fraught with internal shadows and external storms. But the reward, your unwavering integrity and an unyielding spirit, is beyond measure. Don't turn away.